Welcome to Meditation Mount and to this month's View from the Mount. We're inside the Festival of Light. Many people around the world are celebrating Hanukkah, and also today is the third Sunday in Advent. And as we know, Advent really is the festival that signifies the coming one, the coming light. And light is celebrated in so many different ways. The return of the light. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, of course, we're in the winter solstice, and our friends in the Southern Hemisphere are celebrating the summer solstice. So let's take a moment just to welcome each other and to gather our forces and to create an energetic field of receptivity together. So let us begin by going inside, standing in the silent space of the heart. And standing inside the heart, we both sense and visualize a flame. And the flame that burns in our heart, we call the fire of love. And we feel its warmth, and we sense its illumination, its guiding light. And from each heart, let us send out a beam of lighted love to touch the hearts of all gathered here today in virtual space. And as we connect heart to heart to heart, we weave together a matrix of love, a receptive group field in which new wisdom may be born. So we stand together as a group in the fire of love. Thank you. So we are still in the influence of the sun sign Sagittarius. And as you know, Sagittarius is symbolized by the archer. And the archer expresses this quality of one-pointedness, direction. And the arrow that is unleashed is called the shaft of light. And it speeds towards its chosen target. So this is an excellent time to cultivate spiritual vision, to reorient ourselves to higher objectives, and to choose the next goal in the unfolding of our own soul's destiny. And as we know, the spiritual motto of Sagittarius reinforces the nature of one-pointedness and direction. I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. So we can't fire our arrow into infinity. We have the ability to fire at a certain distance. So we project ourselves into the future, we create our reality, we move towards it, we achieve it, we take stock, we look, we see another goal, and then we fire another arrow. I often jokingly think that Sagittarius is the overlighting sign of golf. You know, I see a hole, I reach that hole, and then I see another. And after 18 holes, I've completed a round. I've completed the course. So each moment presents us with an opportunity of conscious choice. And with every choice, we set in motion consequences. And those consequences have implications, neither good nor bad. They're simply the results of what we set in motion. My sense is that there comes a time in each of our lives when we switch from being extrinsically motivated by things on the outside, to feeling the call of the soul. And we move into what I would call intrinsic motivation, because we're responding to a call. The question is, where does the call come from? Is the call coming from outside? There's nothing wrong with that. It just denotes a certain stage on the path where we shape our identity, we shape ourselves, we shape our world by identifying with things around us, outside us, that we resonate with and want to become like. And then there's that turning point where we realize that I am that I am. So how do I give birth to the I am rather than just projecting I am that on the outside? And that's what I'd like to explore today. So our theme is soul quest, seeking our higher goal in life. And we'll explore the dynamics of choice. I'd like to begin then with the symbol of the archer. This is a Nicholas Roerich painting called Prince Igor. So let's reflect on the stance of the archer. The archer stands poised with feet firmly planted on the earth as the integrated and aligned soul personality. And if you look at the bow, it's one piece of wood. It represents life, a continuum with two ends, spirit and matter, because spirit and matter are not separate. They're just different aspects of the same continuum. Or it could represent masculine and feminine. Whatever the polarities are, the bowstring, when we can have dynamic tension between the pairs of opposites and use that tension to pull back to create even more tension, and then we take the arrow of our aspiration and we fire it into the future. So the firing of the arrow is a conscious choice. It's an act of will. And the sun sign of Sagittarius is a fire sign. So these are fiery arrows that we're unloosing. So each goal represents the next sphere of possibility that awaits us. As I mentioned, we can't do it all in one. We do it in stages. We fire, we reach the point where the arrow landed, which was our intended goal. And then we take stock, take aim, and move on. So what I'd like to explore with us now is this whole question of extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. What is calling to us? And as I've done in previous View from the Mounts, I'm going to use some cartoon drawings that were created back in 1975 at the Findhorn Foundation as part of a 3-month course on esoteric philosophy. And I want to use them because they're very simplistic and they tell a story very, very, very simply. So here is the first one. It says, if I run fast enough, I will reach my goal in life. And this is the classic, the carrot. We have a carrot in life. There's something out there that's calling us, and we believe that we will be fulfilled if we reach the carrot. And the carrot can be anything. It can be the new job. It can be a new partner. It can be a new anything. It can be something that represents to us the next stage in our development. And there's no judgment attached to this. I don't want to infer that it's wrong to wish these things. All I'm saying is that early on in life, I noticed with myself, I was more focused on, creating a career, and my identity was more focused in how I presented myself to the world through my profession. I remember once inside the corporate world when somebody was laid off, they lost their job. apart from just feeling very downhearted, they said, well, what am I going to say? I can't use my business card. I don't have an identity anymore. So when we invest our energy into an outer form as our source of identity, we become very, very vulnerable. And here we've got the hare and the tortoise. So there's a little bit of an Aesop's fable going on in the background here. But the main point here is that here's the carrot. We always want to put a carrot in front of us, and we go for it. So carrying on this analogy of the carrot, if you think of a carrot seed, a tiny seed, and inside the carrot seed is the promise of the carrot. It's DNA, it's structured, it's imprinted with carrothood or carrotness. And all it can do is unfold itself and give birth to a carrot. Now, as a gardener, I was always grateful to the seed companies because they'd sell seeds in packets, and the packets actually would have a picture on the outside of what was inside the seed. So on the packet of carrot seeds, there was a picture of a carrot. Now, when it comes to us, we don't have that kind of data and information readily available. I don't know about you, but I've looked at my skin covering. I can't see anything printed on it that tells me who I am, what's inside, how best to plant and grow myself. And I guess the only way we know what's inside is by daring to plant ourselves in the fields of time and space. So it is an act of daring. Other forms of nature don't have this issue. If you look at a rock is where it is, it's in place. And plants, they grow based on what's inside them as far as their seeds. And their seeds get carried by the wind, carried by animals, carried by birds, and they find themselves in different bioregions. And yet we, humans, with our freedom of choice, are the one species who have to tune in to our own destiny and say, who am I? What is it that is seeking to unfold? Where am I best planted? With whom? And we only know that by daring to launch ourselves on this journey. So if the carrot seed contains the promise of the carrot inside it, I believe that each one of us contains the promise of our true identity inside us. So our choices then become made from the inside. We're seeking to give birth to that which is within. And then now and again, we come to a crossroad or we come to a fork in the road. And so let's have a look at that particular dilemma. So when we come to a fork in the road, what do? Which way do we go? And I'd like to quote Yogi Berra. Those of you who are familiar with this US baseball legend, he's renowned for his wit. And he said simply, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. However, what I'd like to explore today is when we stand in front of a choice, often the fear is, if I go this way or that way, I won't be who I am. I will have a different destiny. I will have a different outcome to my life. And what I believe is true, and I'm experiencing this, is that free will cannot alter our essential nature. It just gives us the choice and the time and the space in which to consciously choose how and when and where to reveal ourselves. Now, some soil conditions may be more conducive to our unfolding than others. And so there's not so much a right or a wrong choice. Wherever we choose to go is usually the classroom we need to end up in order to learn the lessons of being a better co-creator with life and a better steward of our own destiny. So I know a number of, I've faced this. And what happens when you reach this fork in the road? You think, well, do I go this way? Do I go that way? Or maybe if I just go down this road a little bit and test it out and then double back and then try the other one and then compare them. My sense is when you are listening to the soul, it is not using the analytical mind to compare. You have a sense of direction, you have a prompting, and you go for it. But the question is, but what if I make the wrong choice? In Agni Yoga, the yoga of synthesis, the yoga of fire, the guides and mentors of the human race, and these are simply the postgraduate humans. These are our brothers and sisters who have actually graduated from the Earth classroom and now have mastered the lessons of Earth and have earned their degree. That's why they're called Masters of Wisdom. They've earned it. So they've got their MW, their Master of Wisdom, rather than their MBA. So these Masters of Wisdom are our mentors. And in Agni Yoga, what they say is, look, we're here to help, but we can't help if you don't take the first move. There is a law of freedom that says we cannot intervene or interfere. We cannot tell you what to do and where to go. However, when you make a choice and put yourself in play, even if it's in the wrong direction, we can at least say, here's a course correction. We can only offer help when you put yourself in play. And I think the dilemma for a lot of people is that we get frozen, like deer in the headlights. We cannot make a choice. And when we can't make a choice, we can't break that circle. And it's, as I've said before, it's rather like the movie Groundhog Day. Every day we wake up and it's like, when's it going to change? Well, it changes through an act of will, through an act of initiating something new. And I guess I'm learning to dare to act on my promptings, not to wait till I understand perfectly what needs to be done, but dare to do it and trust that there are my own soul that is guiding, but there are also mentors and spiritual guardians that are there to help us on our way as long as we are in play. So that, I think that's, for me, was an important thing to realize, because I would procrastinate. I'd sit around a long time and say, well, I'm just going to wait until I get a confirmation. And nothing happened. And I'm saying, well, when's it going to happen? Well, when's what going to happen? We have inside of us a promise, and that promise is the seed of our identity. And that seed has to be sown and grown, and we're the gardeners of our own soul. So it's up to us. So I'd like to present one other consequence of our choices. So when I became a vegetarian back in the 1960s, I was very proud of myself. And I think, oh, well, it was like a status thing. I'm a vegetarian. And then somebody turned to me and pointed at my leather boots and said, then why are you wearing leather shoes? And it's a question of, where do we draw the line? So when we commit to something and choose something, do we say, well, I'm going to be a vegetarian, but only up to here, or I'm going to be loving and kind, but only up to here? And in the beginning, we do set boundaries because that's our capacity. And in the end, though, when we say yes to something, it's an unconditional yes. And we learn to let go and to live it fully. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone has to be a vegetarian. I just use this as an example of a situation I found myself in. Some people may feel called to continue eating meat. fish, eggs, whatever the relationship you have with life and with your body, because your body is an intelligent being and it knows what it needs. Once you've gotten rid of the addictions and the sugar cravings and listen to your body, it will tell you exactly what it needs. And every now and again, my body says, Michael, go buy some beetroots. We need beets. And so I'm cultivating a relationship with myself. So a choice at this level about what to buy in the market is a wise choice, not based on an addiction I have or something superfluous, but is based on something that comes from the inside as a genuine need. So it seems like the carrot is one of the main characters in our view from the Mount today. And I'd like to continue this and to tell you a story. It was an experience I had back in 1983 in Findhorn. And it, like many of these aha moments, it opened up a new perspective and changed my life. And that perspective has been with me for a long time and it keeps expanding. So here briefly is the story. So in the winter of 1983, I was in Findhorn, Scotland, which is in the northeastern part of Scotland. And you can imagine in the winter there, it's very dark and it can be very windy and very wet. And all you want to do is to snuggle up with a good book. Well, what I did, I snuggled up with a number of good books and I decided to reread my science fiction and my science fantasy books. And so I was immersed in wormholes, black holes, transdimensional travel. And at the end of this reading spree, I sort of said to myself, look, okay, if there's a black hole in space, we've read what a black hole is. And a black hole, I'm going to read what I wrote at that time. A black hole is a area in space where the forces of gravity are so overwhelming that matter collapses upon itself, causing a transdimensional rent in the very fabric of the created universe. So these are my field notes from the time. So I'm reading from my notes. I also said, like some giant stellar plug hole perched on the edge of chaos, it beckons, swallows, and transports all that comes within its reach to God knows where. It is the gate of death, for no light can escape its grasp. What then happened is I realized if there is a black hole and we're in this dualistic universe, there must be a white hole. And so I said, I'm going to go on a quest to discover the white hole. Now I'm going to fast forward a few months. It was April 1983, and I decided to sow some early carrots in my garden. And I had created the furrows, and I tipped a packet of carrot seeds into the palm of my hand, and I was ready to go sow the seeds. And then all of a sudden, everything became eerily quiet and still. And Mother Nature somehow started to glow. And there was this like an electric tingle in the air. And I looked down at the palm of my hands. And instead of the seeds, all I could see was a cluster of white holes. And I suddenly thought, a seed is a white hole. And I can prove it. If I take a seed and plant it in the ground, it creates a portal through which light can enter the earth. So the seeds act as celestial gateways through which new light can pour into the earth and substantiate the cellular world of form. And at the time, I could actually feel and see the angels carrying these light-filled musings of the Creator. And they were breathing through these portals called the white hole. And they created patterns of densified light that we know as trees and shrubs and vegetables and flowers. So this was, I didn't quite know what to make about this, because it was a really aha moment. And then when I came to, I thought, oh my gosh, what if you and I are white holes? What if you and I are portals through which new light can enter Earth? The dreams of the Creator, the dreams from the subtle realms, the dreams of our soul that is part of the dream of Gaia. What if we are being asked to open up the portal and allow this light to come through the agency of our daily life? And it's like, wow. So I'd like to offer this possibility that you and I are white holes in space, and that our choice is not so much to choose who we are, but to choose how we reveal ourselves in time and space, how we do it gracefully, how we do it so that the truth of who we are can flower in the world as a gift. Now, that may sound very idealistic, but a seed is an ideal. If I take a seed and say to you, look at this carrot, you'll say, no, it's not a carrot, it's a seed. But I say, yeah, but inside the seed is the promise of a carrot. It's like me saying, I am a spiritual being. And people say, oh yeah, really? Yes, I'm a spiritual being. Prove it. Well, the only way we can prove our spiritual nature, the only way that this can be shown, is by being sown and grown in the fields of time and space, which is where this whole notion of choice comes in, the act of will. And what I'd like to do then is to explore one more image with you. So the seed of our identity is an eternal promise that lives inside us. And I'd like to put forward that each incarnation, there is another cycle of unfolding. And this seed enters time and space and unfolds sequentially. So you could say the seed itself on these inner levels is like David Bohm's enfolded universe, where everything is enfolded into itself. And that by entering time and space, by planting the seeds in the soil of daily life, we begin the process of unfolding the enfolded universe of self. And during our life, we start to grow. And at some point, we find ourselves a plant with a few leaves, and we may be standing next to somebody who's fully flowered. And there's usually a choice. We can either be very inspired by that person saying, wow, one day I'll flower myself, or we can be intimidated because that person seems to be more advanced than we are. And so for me, the danger is to compare myself with other people and judge how well I'm doing, what my self-worth is. For me, it's important to understand that at the deepest level, perfection lives. And yet every choice we make is an act of revealing that which is inside, that perfection on the outside. And it may take many lifetimes, because I don't think we grow in one season. There are many seasons of growth that we go through as we plant our soul seeds. So the whole notion of making choices in life, and if you think about that phrase in the Bible, when Master Jesus the Christ, was on the cross and basically said, Father, not my will, but thine, and aligned with a higher will, that was a very dramatic enactment of a process that all of us will go through, which is bringing our own personal lives into alignment with a greater purpose. Think about that. Roberto Assagioli, who, as we've mentioned before in these sessions, was the founder of psychosynthesis, which is a transpersonal, progressive approach to creating wholeness, considering the full spectrum of our human nature. He also was the guiding light behind Meditation Mount. And he said this phrase, "Father, not my will, but thine," he said it needs to be updated now for the age of Aquarius, because we need to claim our own sovereignty. And he said, here's another way of saying it. He said, I choose to do the will of God. So we take responsibility for acting as the soul, acting as our own agent of destiny. So this sounds all very romantic and prosaic, to plant yourself like a carrot seed in the garden of life. And if you look around at the moment, the world's pretty messed up. It's messed up because of how we've created things. And the question is, how does this spiritual journey and social activism come together as one wholeness? I know that's been a dialogue that many people have been involved in. And there's been a criticism over the years of so-called spiritual seekers dodging the issue of confronting the social reality. And then conversely, the criticism that the social activists don't understand the causal level, and they can do all they want to address the symptoms. But if you really want to know, for instance, where pollution comes from, the source of pollution comes inside our own minds, inside our own feelings. So if I am discharging negative thoughts into the world, these are equivalent to toxic emissions. And so this next image talks about the politics of place. And this is what we're facing at the moment in the world. A crisis is a convergence point in time and space where underlying patterns surface. It's an opportunity for change and resolution in the here and now. So how I reconcile these two aspects of me, the activist and the spiritual seeker, is to say that I can only engage in social action to protest something or to demand change in something if I'm working on that same issue in myself. For instance, if it's nuclear disarmament, I'd have to look inside myself and say, to what degree am I a threat to others? To what degree am I armed with unkind thoughts? And I believe with this twofold approach, it is a very powerful agent of change. So once again, the choice is not whether we are active or not, but it's how we stand in the world as a force for good. What does it mean to be a spiritual warrior, a warrior of fiery compassion? Remember, Sagittarius is a fire sign, so this is a great time to consider what it means to be a fiery warrior. So we talk about bringing our own wills into alignment with a greater will. A number of people, and including myself early on, were thinking, oh my gosh, if I align myself with a greater will, then I'll lose my sense of identity. I think what a number of us have discovered, or many of us have discovered, is that when we align with something greater and enter into it, we don't lose ourselves, we gain an expanded sense of self. And so when we bring ourselves in alignment with a higher purpose, we find that place of deep peace. And for those of you who are students of the Ageless Wisdom, you know that Shambhala this fiery place, is called the center where the will of God is known. It also has another name, the center of true peace. And it's peace because when we are aligned with a higher purpose, a sense of greater significance and meaning enters our lives. And we're at peace. Now, it's a fiery, dynamic peace. It's not one that is inactive and neutral. This is a dynamic peace from which purpose flows into the world and creates new things. And I'd like to show what in the ageless wisdom is referred to as the three effects of will. If you can imagine this tuning fork at the top of the image, imagine it be the higher will, whether it's the will of God or the note of purpose that lives at the heart of Gaia. When this is sounded as a tuning fork, it reverberates through the multidimensional structure of Gaia, the full spectrum of the ecosystem. And it's said that when this note of higher purpose comes into contact with a form, it has one of three effects. If our lives are already really aligned, as is the figure on the left, where the heart is open and the eyes can see clearly and the ears can hear clearly the song of the soul, then this note of purpose will simply strengthen us and create new patterns. If we seek to do the higher will and are yet still conditioned and still dealing with some distortions in our own personality life, then what this sounding of the note of a higher will does to us, it shakes us. It's a cathartic effect. It will purify us. Now, whether this be purification by water or whether it be a purification by fire, but it will shake us until we bring ourselves into alignment. And then on the far right, there are those forms that have no ability to respond to the higher note. And therefore, the sounding of the note shatters them because there's no corresponding resonance inside the form. These forms no longer have integrity because integrity is a state of being where my life is in resonance and harmony with a greater life, with greater values. So this is what the ageless wisdom offers as these three effects of the release of the force of Shambhala or a higher will. So when we align our lives to a higher will, things happen in our lives. And I know in the work I've done as a counselor that much of the work I do when people come and say, my life is falling apart, there's a big difference if your life is falling apart because you've said yes to life, or your life is falling apart because you're still resisting and haven't made that conscious choice to be part of something greater of which you already are a part, but haven't yet dared to step into it. So going back to this theme of white holes in space, the white hole in space is a portal. And what I'd like to present is the opportunity in front of us now. It's to become portals for the light, to become seed points of new creativity. So this radiant double seed, like a double dorja, is the seed of the cosmos. It's the cosmic magnet. And it's seeking entry into Earth. And the entry point of light and love and spiritual power into dense physical reality on Earth is through the agency of our human lives. And so in order for Gaia to fulfill its destiny, we have to step up and make a choice about how we align ourselves in our lives. So here it says, the points of entry on earth through which genius can flow are those groups and individuals who are open to meet a need and through the quality of their lives act as magnetic seed points. So each one of us can become a portal, a magnetic point of entry for greater light, greater love, and greater spiritual power on earth. And it may sound rather fanciful, but it is reality, and we have to make it real. Our job is to bring heaven down on earth and to raise heaven to earth so that the two meet and merge, and there is no split. So how do we bring about the union of the opposites? How do we bring about the fulfilling of the destiny of Gaia? It's by consciously choosing together as one human family to step into our destiny and to play our part and to do it joyfully and do it together, supporting each other as we do it. And there are really two things that we have to address. And here at Meditation Mount, we talk about the twofold approach that's needed at the moment. There are a lot of wounded people walking around at the moment, and we carry our own wounds from the past. It could be from past lifetimes, or it could be from earlier in our childhood, or more recently. These wounds have to be healed. So the healing of the past liberates us from being trapped in the past. And as we heal the past through forgiveness, through therapy, through acts of unconditional love, we create out of the past pain compost that can enrich the soil of the present. And at the same time, we realize that soil isn't just there to be rich and not to do anything. Soil is there to receive the seeds and to provide a womb, provide a space in which the future can unfold. So our second task is to dream together through the collective imagination a preferred future. And as we've mentioned before, the preferred future we speak about at Meditation Mount is based on three principles that are fundamental to the building of a new society. These are essential divinity, which acknowledges the sacredness of all life, that inside of you and me and all creation is the spark of the one flame, the spark of God, that we are in fact fiery fractals of one life. And then there's the principle of goodwill, which is love in action, because this is a universe created by love, and love is the lifeblood and currency of all relationships. And then the third principle that this preferred future is built on is unanimity, that there is one web of life. We are inseparable, we are interdependent, and the whole thought form of separation is a temporary illusion that has to be dissolved. So our job is to heal the wounds, heal ourselves, bring ourselves to greater wholeness, to enrich the soil, and at the same time, bringing the seeds of the future, precipitating those seeds from the future and planting them in the present. And we've mentioned here at Meditation Mount that this new civilization could take hundreds or thousands of years to unfold. But the enfolded seed that contains the promise of this new era, this new Aquarian era, needs to be planted here and now by us. We are the gardeners of Gaia. We are the purveyors of our own soul's destiny. So I'd like to leave us with this thought and have us just reflect on, so what are the choices I now choose to make in my life to bring myself into greater alignment with the truth of who I am to bring myself into greater alignment with others, to bring myself into greater alignment with the destiny of Gaia. Because this planet herself and itself is a sacred being seeking to unfold, just as we are. It's just a question of scale. So this is the great adventure that we find ourselves on. And at the moment when we look around, conditions look quite hairy, but that's just the old breaking down. That's just the composting process. We have to dare to stand in the truth of our own light and love and spiritual power and plant the seeds of the future. And in the end, there is no other choice. But freedom, the law of freedom says, you can choose whatever you want. And however, slowly and slowly the pressure builds up. And I think many of us are feeling it now, that there is really no other choice now but to give myself fully to life and allow life fully to express through me and to express through us as one human family. Thank you. I think that sort of wraps up today's exploration. So I'm going to take a breath, and I'd like to make a couple of announcements before we do a closing. This coming Sunday, on December the 20th, we'll be meeting online at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for a solstice celebration. We're still putting it together, but it will be to honor this great portal that is opening with the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in 0 degrees Aquarius that's happening on the 21st, and the inaugurating the age of the feminine, the new age. And so we will be meeting at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Then on Tuesday, December the 29th, we'll be meeting at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, not 6 p.m. The reason we're meeting at 7 p.m. is because the exact time of the full moon is 7:29. So we have an opportunity at our next full moon meditation, which is the full moon in Capricorn, where the moon actually is in Cancer. We have an opportunity to do an exact time meditation, which means that we'll be standing together, real-time alignment with the energies. And then in January the 10th, 2021, at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll meet again for another view from the Mount, and we'll explore whatever the theme is, whatever's happening in the world, whatever's happening to us, but we'll do it through the influence of the sun sign Capricorn. And Capricorn is the goat of initiation. It's the climbing the mountain. So we'll see what that means. So let's close by just bringing ourselves back into that inner space inside the group heart. Step back into the matrix of love that we created and that we've been standing in for the past 50 minutes. And let's invite into this space the fiery purpose that lives at the heart of our planet. May it fill us with its purpose, with its promise, with its power. And may we take the seeds of the future, plant them in the soil of the present, and may we together each day grow a new world from the inside out. May peace prevail on earth. Thank you, everyone, for being part of our journey together. And so we bid each other farewell. So good night from Meditation Mount. Blessings and we'll see each other next time. Namaskar.